guys, I'm Lily. I'm one of the education interns here this summer, and on today's Facebook Live, we are doing Before the Butterflies. So we are highlighting all of the life stages before these butterflies become the actual butterflies. So the first stage that I want to talk about is the egg. So the parents will lay the egg, and over here in this chamber, we actually have a couple of eggs that have been laid. Now, for the most part at the garden, we don't actually have a lot of butterfly eggs here. So the reason for that is every butterfly has a very specific host plant. They're only going to lay their eggs on just a couple plants. They might be a couple plants in the same genus, but there's just a very limited amount of plants that butterflies actually lay their eggs on, because their caterpillars are very, very picky about what they want to eat. Which in a way, that's actually very nice for the garden, because we do not want to have a lot of caterpillars crawling all around the butterfly house. And the reason for that is caterpillars eat a lot. If you've ever read The Very Hungry Caterpillar, you have seen that they really like to eat a lot, and we would have to be replacing the plants so often if we had caterpillars all around the house. So we limit our caterpillar creation by only having a few host plants. We will put a male and a female butterfly of a species into the chambers with their specific host plant if we want them to lay eggs. So we do that for a couple species so that way people can see the entire lifespan of the butterflies. But for the most part, we are really not having eggs in the house. And then the next stage is, of course, the caterpillar. Once the egg hatches. So over here we have Taylor, one of our operations interns, and she has a caterpillar. I believe this is a monarch, and so this is one that we actually bred here, and it hatched. So caterpillars also grow very quickly once they come out of the eggs. They start out very, very small, you can barely see them, and then they get a lot bigger, like this guy. And that's just because they eat so much. So if you come in at the right time, you can see some of the plants that they've been eating, and you'll see a lot of holes in them in their little chambers, because the caterpillars have just been having a really good feast, so that way they can grow and become ready to be a chrysalis. So now I want to show some other caterpillars. So this is a chamber that's got some great southern whites in it. We have a couple that are still kind of caterpillars. There's that one right there. There's a couple all over on this chamber, but for the most part, they are becoming the chrysalis on the side. So it's kind of interesting. They're still slightly shaped like a caterpillar when they first go into the chrysalis, and then they truly become more of your traditional chrysalis shape once they're in there for a little bit longer. So if you come in at a good time, you'll hopefully be able to see some that are just starting to make their chrysalis. So this guy right here is mostly still a caterpillar, but you can see a little bit of fuzz kind of on the screen, and that is actually some of what it's going to use to create its chrysalis in probably just a day or two. So that guy's really getting started. Some of them are able to make their chrysalises on the screens, and then some of them prefer to do it on the plants and things like that, just like they would in nature. And then we actually have a couple species right now doing that. So we showed the monarchs a little bit, showed the great southern whites, also the black swallowtail. So we have one of the butterflies in here in the chamber, and that's one of the ones that we had mating earlier, and it laid a lot of the eggs. And now there are a lot of chrysalises in there that are slowly becoming their butterflies. So some of the chrysalises are a little darker forms, but then there's some that are this really bright green over here. So sometimes the chrysalises at different life stages of the chrysalis will actually be different colors. And now I want to talk about kind of the main way we get butterflies in here, because like I said, we just allow a few butterfly species to lay eggs, and they lay just a couple. They don't lay hundreds and hundreds. They lay more within the 10s or 20s or something like that. So we get most of our butterflies in as a shipment. So I have Taylor here, and she is currently working to actually glue some of the chrysalises to little sheets of paper. So normally in nature, the chrysalises would have a little bit of string and they would be attaching themselves to the trees. But here we help them out with just a little bit of glue so that way they can hang up. So Taylor, where do we get some of these chrysalises from that we have in here?
So we get the chrysalises that we have in here from butterfly farmers in the United States. We have one farmer that we work with who is from Wisconsin, but we also have a few farmers that are from either Texas or Florida, and then those they send their chrysalises to us in a little package, and we open it up, and it's like Christmas, and we go through them, and then start to pin them onto these strips of paper.
Yes.
Actually, paper towel. So
cool. Yeah. So, like Taylor said, some of the breeders are from Wisconsin, so we get a lot of our native species that way. So on our board, you can see which species are native. They have a little red star by them, and most of those are coming from Wisconsin breeders, so you might be able to see those flying around here. But we also, because the house is so warm and we have such big, beautiful plants in here, we want to bring in some tropical species as well to see some butterflies that you might not find in Wisconsin, but you might find more in the southern United States and in Central America and South America and some of those warmer climates. So that's why we have some of those breeders from Texas and Florida as well. So now let's kind of go over to our chamber where we have the chrysalises, and I think in a sec Taylor will come over and maybe show us how she pins some of them. But you can see this guy here recently emerged. So we have all of these chrysalises up here that are pinned so that way the butterflies can hang out for a week or two as they go from the caterpillar stage to the butterfly stage. And then once they are hatched, their wings have to dry out a little bit because they were very, very crumpled when they were in the chrysalis. And then once they come out, they just need to dry their wings for a little bit. They may start to fly around the chamber a little bit, and that is when we know that it's time to release them, and one of our operations interns can open the doors and let the butterflies come out and fly with the rest of them. So Taylor, did you have a couple that you were going to pin right now?
yeah, I actually have a couple tiger swallowtails that I saved. If you want to, I can actually show you over here. So I have, so I pulled one of these out. It's just foam on a, PVC roller pipe. So we call it our rollers, our foam rollers. And it's kind of like, pool noodle. And we use these to put the chrysalises on. So if you come over here, I can show you. So basically, what we just want to do, and it's kind of the reason why we, pin in the first place, is we just want to suspend them upside down so that they can emerge. So you can't see it on here, but their heads, where their faces are, is actually at the bottom, and the bottom of their body, of their abdomen, is actually up here. This is where their silk had come out of. So we will pin like this so that they can emerge like they would, in the wild. So, we just kind of pin it on there, and then make sure that, it's suspended vertically, and then that's pretty much that. It's pretty simple, but it's super important that, we do it properly so that they can emerge successfully.
Very cool. And how often do you get shipments of new chrysalises in here?
So we get shipments 2 to 3 times a week. We get 3 one week, 2 the next week. And we'll usually get them about, 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you were ever in here and you see us, working behind here with glue guns and some other stuff, that's what we're doing. We're pinning.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so butterflies don't have the longest life cycle in the world. They might live maybe 2 to 4 weeks in the adult stage, so we do get shipments in here pretty often, so that way there's always butterflies flying around here that everyone can come in and see. And you do have to have a reservation to come into the butterfly house. It's no additional cost, so either if you're a member or if you are paying for your ticket, it is no additional cost to come into the Butterfly House, but you do have to make a reservation because we limit the number of people allowed in the house at one time. So if you go to gbbg.org, you can make a reservation on there, and you can also find more information about butterflies as well as all of the plants that are in our garden. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something.